The galaxy had always been ruled by the Galactic Council, a coalition of powerful alien species that claimed to protect peace and order. Humanity was one of the younger races, always seen as stubborn and emotional, but also dangerous when provoked. The Council had allowed them a seat, but never true respect. Then came the event they called the cleansing. It began without warning. The Council's fleets moved across the stars with silent precision, targeting every world that once stood beside humanity. The Lyrians, the Sarathi, the calm scholars of Venra, all erased within a week. The Council claimed it was necessary, that those species had violated treaties, but everyone knew the truth. They had stood with Earth when the Council tried to limit humanity's reach, and for that loyalty they were burned on Earth. Fear turned to silence, then to rage. The images from the Lyrian homeworld filled every screen, cities reduced to ash, children lost beneath burning skies. Humanity had never felt so helpless, bound by agreements that forbade them from striking back. The Galactic Council had called them impulsive and primitive, but deep within the halls of Earth's military command, plans were already taking shape. Admiral Ethan Reeve, a man known for calm decisions and cold precision, stood before a holographic map of the outer colonies. His gray eyes followed the red markers that showed destroyed worlds for years. He had warned that the Council would one day turn their guns on humanity. Now that day had come, sir, a young officer said quietly. The Council has declared the Lyrian extinction complete. Their fleets are moving toward the neutral sectors. Reeve didn't answer immediately. He simply stared at the display, then turned to his staff. They call it cleansing, he said, his voice low and steady. We will call it what it is, murder. Around him, the room grew silent. Every officer understood the weight of his words. Retaliation meant open war with the most powerful coalition in the galaxy. But Reeve's expression never wavered. He pressed a command key and the hologram changed, revealing secret shipyards hidden beneath the Martian surface. Dozens of massive warships, classified, unregistered, slept beneath layers of dust and rock. Project Iron Dawn, Reeve said, was never meant to exist, but today, it becomes humanity's answer. Across the solar system, hidden bases came alive. On Titan, technicians reactivated the engines of old dreadnoughts that hadn't flown for 50 years. On Luna, soldiers whispered rumors of war while engineers loaded railgun cores and plasma torpedoes. Humanity, once disarmed and restrained, was rising again. In the middle of this storm stood Captain Lena Voss, one of the last survivors of the Lyrian genocide. She had once served as a diplomat aboard a Council research station, until the day she watched the Lyrians she called friends get vaporized before her eyes. That memory had burned itself into her soul. She volunteered for the first strike unit under Reeve's command. As she walked through the corridors of the Martian Fleet Command, she passed crews working in silence, faces grim and determined. No one spoke of revenge aloud. But it was in the air, thick and heavy, like the calm before a storm. When Lena entered the command deck, Admiral Reeve was standing near the main viewport, watching Mars's twin moons drift across the sky. Captain Voss, he said quietly, you've seen what they did to your people's allies? You know what's coming next? Yes, sir, she said, her voice steady. They will come for us. Just like they came for them. Reeve nodded slowly. And when they do, they'll find we're not the same frightened species they remember. Outside the base, massive steel hangar doors began to open, revealing the first of Earth's reborn fleet. Battleships, black and silver, powered by fusion hearts and railgun arrays, rose from the Martian surface like sleeping gods awakening. The sky filled with engines and thunder. Across the human colonies, coded transmissions spread through encrypted channels, simple words, but powerful. Operation Dawnfire initiated. Every human pilot, every soldier, every engineer knew what that meant. No more waiting. No more silence. The Galactic Council, sitting in their crystal towers above the world of Eldara, had no idea what they had awakened. Reports from their spies spoke of unrest on Earth. Nothing more. They laughed at humanity's defiance, calling them children playing at war, but deep in the void between stars. Human fleets were already on the move, cloaked, silent, watching. waiting. Lena Voss stood on the bridge of her ship, TNS Valkyrie, as the launch lights flickered from red to green. Her heart pounded with the rhythm of the engines, and she whispered to herself, "For Lyra, for Earth, for all they burned," the fleet began its jump sequence. Bright rings of light forming around each vessel. In that moment, humanity crossed a line that could never be undone. Admiral Reeve gave the final order in a voice calm as steel. "Begin the operation." And with that command, the Terran fleet vanished into the black, carrying with it the fury of an entire species, far away under the silent stars. The Council's ships continued their patrols, unaware that judgment was already coming, carried on engines of fire and vengeance. Because the day the stars went silent, humanity stopped being afraid and started becoming something far more dangerous. The red dunes of Mars had never known silence like this. The wind that usually howled across the plains was drowned beneath the thunder of awakening engines. Massive hangar doors opened one by one, revealing the Terran fleet in its hidden glory. For decades, these ships had slept beneath the surface, forgotten by history, guarded by oaths and shadows. Now, under the cold Martian sun, they came alive again. The air vibrated with energy as plasma cores ignited and fusion drives roared to life. Engineers shouted orders, pilots strapped into cockpits, and across the command deck, every screen blinked with the same coded message. Operation Dawnfire. Phase 1, Engagement Authorization. Admiral Ethan Reeve stood at the heart of Mars Command. His uniform immaculate, his expression unreadable. The man who had once been called the voice of caution was now the face of vengeance. Around him, officers monitored tactical feeds from every colony and outpost. Each red dot on the holographic display represented a human warship, and there were hundreds, more than anyone outside Earth had ever imagined. "Status of fleet readiness," Reeve asked, his voice calm, steady. "Cutting through the chaos like a blade. 79%. "Admiral," Commander Isha Moreno replied, "we're still loading railgun munitions on the Titan-class battleships. But the Vanguard is ready to move." Reeve nodded slowly. "Good, we won't wait for perfection. The galaxy didn't give us that luxury." Meanwhile, Captain Lena Voss stood aboard her ship, TNS Valkyrie, watching the glow of the Martian horizon from her viewport. Around her, the bridge crew moved in silent efficiency. Every officer knew what was at stake. The Council's fleets were vast, but they relied on arrogance, on control. They had never faced a human enemy united by fury and loss. Lena's first officer, Lieutenant Harris, turned to her. "Ma'am, do you really think we can win against them?" Lena's eyes narrowed. "We don't need to win," she said quietly. "We just need to remind them who we are." Those words carried through the bridge like an electric spark. Every soldier, every pilot, every technician aboard the Valkyrie felt it in their bones. Far above Mars, in the void between planets, the first strike group assembled. 5 dreadnoughts, 12 destroyers, and 2 stealth carriers, an armada built for one purpose, to strike first and vanish before the enemy could respond. The mission target was simple but dangerous. The Council's forward command relay at the edge of the Proxima Gate, the network hub through which all galactic communication passed. If humanity could take that out, they would blind the Council. Reeve's voice echoed across every comm channel. "Terran command to all fleet units. This is not a war of conquest. This is a message. They erased our friends, our allies, our families, and now they will learn that humanity does not forget." The ships began to move, slow at first, then faster, until they became streaks of silver light cutting through the void. The Valkyrie led the charge, her engines burning blue-white, her sensors locked onto the distant shimmer of the Proxima relay. The Council's security forces stationed there were relaxed, confident. They had grown used to peace enforced through fear. Their sensor screens flickered with minor anomalies, but no one paid attention. They thought the humans were still debating in their little council rooms back on Earth. Still bound by rules, still afraid. Then the sky tore open. The Valkyrie and her fleet emerged from hyperspace like ghosts. The first salvo hit before the Council ships even raised their shields. Railgun slugs traveling at near-light speed pierced through hulls, exploding into molten clouds of metal and fire. One by one, the enemy ships vanished from the radar. "Target their command core," Lena ordered, her voice sharp. "No survivors." No transmissions. The Valkyrie's cannons roared again, firing plasma beams that lanced across space, slicing through the Proxima Relay's central spire. For a heartbeat, the structure held, then collapsed in a silent explosion of light. Inside the Council's nearest fleet base, alarms began to blare. Dozens of alien officers rushed to their posts, shouting in confusion. "Unknown fleet signature detected. Origin, Sol system." They couldn't believe it, humanity, the small, defiant species they had mocked, had just destroyed the most secure communications hub in the galaxy. Back aboard the Valkyrie, silence filled the bridge. The operation had taken less. Lena exhaled slowly. "Mission complete," she whispered, "for Lyra." But deep inside her, she knew this was just the beginning. Admiral Reeve received the success report aboard the command dreadnought Erebus. His lips curved into the faintest smile. "Good work, Captain Voss. The stars will remember this day." He turned to Commander Moreno. "Send the signal. Phase 2 begins immediately." Across the fleet, encrypted orders flashed in sequence. One by one, human warships activated, their cloaking fields and dispersed into the darkness, like hunters vanishing into the forest. The Council's fleet scrambled, dispatching patrols to find the attackers, but it was already too late. The humans were gone, leaving only wreckage and silence behind, in the Council's grand chamber on Eldara. Panic spread like wildfire. High Chancellor Veyron slammed his clawed hand against the table. "Find them! Humanity must not rise again!" he roared. But somewhere, far beyond their reach, Earth's fleets were already preparing their next move. Their vengeance had only just begun, and as the red storms of Mars faded into the endless black, a message, transmitted across every human channel, clear and unwavering. "They took our allies. They silenced our friends. Now we will silence their empire." The Terran fleet moved in shadow, silent, precise, unstoppable. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but the age of human fear was over, and the age of fire had begun. The galaxy burned in silence. No one yet knew who had done it, but everyone could feel the fear spreading through. The stars, the Proxima Relay, the heart of the Council's communication web, had been destroyed. Every message, every order, every signal, gone. Entire fleets drifting blind in the dark, in the cold expanse beyond Mars. Admiral Ethan Reeve watched the chaos unfold on the holographic map aboard the Erebus. A faint smile touched his lips. Not of joy, but grim satisfaction. Humanity had been silent for too long. Now the stars were finally listening. "Council response detected," Commander Moreno reported. "Multiple fleets mobilizing from Eldara Prime. They're sending everything they have." Reeve folded his hands behind his back, his voice calm. "Let them come. The more they send, the more we'll destroy." Across the fleet, soldiers prepared. For the next phase, Operation Dawnfire was no longer a whisper. It was a declaration. Humanity would strike again, not from rage alone, but to send a message that could never be erased. Captain Lena Voss stood aboard the Valkyrie, watching the stars blur as her ship entered hyperspace. The glow from the engine core reflected in her eyes. Her crew was exhausted, but no one complained. Every man and woman aboard knew what they were fighting for. They had lost friends, family, entire worlds. This wasn't just war, it was justice long denied. Their target was the Council's supply fortress on Viridian 9, a heavily fortified moon orbiting a gas giant. It controlled the flow of fuel, ammunition, and resources for half the Council's fleets. Destroying it would cripple their ability to fight. As the Valkyrie dropped out of hyperspace, the enemy fortress came into view. A massive metallic ring surrounded the moon, bristling with defense turrets and shield arrays. Dozens of patrol ships guarded the perimeter, unaware that death had already arrived. "Stealth fields engaged," said Lieutenant Harris, his fingers flying over the control panel. "Good," Lena replied, her tone sharp and steady. "Hold position until the rest of the strike group arrives." One by one, Terran ships emerged from the void. Erebus, Vanguard, Orion, and the smaller destroyers of Task Force Ironwing. Together they formed a shadow that blotted out the stars. Reeves' voice echoed over the encrypted comms. "Listen carefully, there will be no retreat. The Council believes we hide in fear. Show them the truth." The silence that followed was heavy, charged. Every crew member across the fleet holding their breath as the order came. Fire! In an instant, space lit up with light and fury. Railgun slugs screamed through the void. Plasma torpedoes erupted in blue fire. The first wave struck the fortress. Shields, shattering them like glass. Explosions rippled across its surface. Defense platforms turning into molten debris. The Council's patrol ships scrambled, firing wildly, but they couldn't see their attackers. Human stealth tech made them ghosts in the dark. Inside the fortress, chaos erupted. Alarms blared. Alien. Officers shouted over each other. "Unknown contacts detected! Multiple! Closing fast!" Lena smiled coldly. "They're blind. Finish them." The Valkyrie dove through debris fields, weaving between fragments of metal and fire. Her guns roared again, cutting through enemy frigates like blades through paper. Then, a massive explosion shook the fleet. The Vanguard had taken a direct hit, flames spilling across her hull. "We've lost main power," shouted her captain over comms. Reeves' jaw tightened. "All units, cover the Vanguard. We don't lose anyone today." The Erebus turned its cannons, unleashing a storm of kinetic fire that obliterated the attackers, shattered enemy ships. Drifted silently as the fortress began to crumble. "Status of Viridian 9? Reeve demanded. "Structure collapsing, Admiral." Commander Moreno replied. "We've done it." But before Reeve could respond, sensors flared red. A new fleet had arrived. Massive Council reinforcements, hundreds of ships emerging from hyperspace. Their weapons locked and ready, Lena's heart pounded. "Sir, we're outnumbered 10-1. Reeves' eyes hardened. "Then we'll even the odds." He turned to his tactical officer. "Activate the black field." For a moment, everyone froze. The black field was humanity's most secret weapon. A technology so dangerous it was never meant to be used. It bent light, energy, even gravity itself, creating a sphere of invisible annihilation. Reeves' voice dropped to a whisper. "Initiate on my mark." Outside, the enemy fleet closed in, hundreds of ships forming a vast circle around the Terran strike group. Laser fire streaked across the darkness. Explosions flared. Then, suddenly, everything went silent. The black field activated. From the Erebus, a wave of distorted space expanded outward. It swallowed enemy ships like shadows devoured by fire. Metal twisted, energy vanished, entire warships turned to ash without a sound. When the field dissipated, there was nothing left, only fragments drifting in the void. On the Valkyrie's bridge, the crew stared in stunned silence. Lena finally spoke, her voice quiet but filled with awe. "By the stars! What have we become?" Reeves' voice came over the comms, steady and cold. "We've become what they made us." The fleet regrouped. Viridian 9 burned behind them, and the Council's network collapsed even further. Every transmission they tried to send returned static. Every fleet they called for help found only wreckage. In the halls of Eldara Prime, the Galactic Council gathered once again, panic in their voices, fear in their eyes. High Chancellor Veyron slammed his fist on the table. "How can this be possible? Humanity was contained, controlled." An intelligence officer trembled as he spoke. "They were, sir. Until now, far across the stars, aboard the Erebus, Reeves stood before his crew, the shattered remnants of Viridian 9 reflected in his visor. He spoke softly, but his words carried through every comm channel. "This is only the beginning. They erased our allies. Now they will remember us as the storm that erased them." And with that, the Terran fleet vanished once more into the black, leaving behind only silence, smoke, and the echo of humanity's rising fury. The galaxy no longer whispered about humanity. It screamed their name in fear. From the cold moons of Viridian to the glowing markets of Eldara Prime, every broadcast carried one truth: the Terran fleet had returned, and the stars would never be the same again. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council's war chambers were filled with panic. Holographic maps showed red zones spreading like wildfire across the outer rim. Dozens of outposts destroyed. Supply chains cut. Fleets missing without a trace. High Chancellor Veyron stood before the gathered counselors, his scaled hands trembling with rage. "They are one planet!" he hissed. "One species! How are they doing this?" The alien generals exchanged fearful glances. "Their ships move unseen. Their weapons tear through our shields. Every counterstrike ends in silence," one said quietly. Veyron slammed his fist against the table. "Then we will burn their homeworld. Send everything we have to Sol, erase Earth from existence." But deep inside, even he knew it wouldn't be that simple. The humans had changed. They had become something else, something faster, smarter, and far more dangerous than before. Across the void, Admiral Ethan Reeve listened to intercepted council transmissions aboard the dreadnought Erebus. The room glowed dimly, illuminated by the cold light of the tactical display. The enemy was preparing for war. Finally, Commander Moreno approached. "They're massing fleets at Theta Gate, sir. Over 500 ships." Reeve didn't flinch. "Good, that saves us the trouble of hunting them one by one, far away." Captain Lena Voss stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie, her ship drifting in the shadows of a dying star. Her crew ran quiet operations, recharging the stealth fields. Their next mission was the most dangerous yet: to strike the Council's forward. "Command fleet before it reached Earth, Captain," said Lieutenant Harris. "The enemy is forming at the Theta Gate. We're outnumbered 100 to 1. Lena looked through the viewport at the swirling darkness of hyperspace, her reflection, cold and focused. "Then we'll hit them where they least expect it," she said softly, "in the heart." Hours later, the human fleet gathered at the edge of the star system, hidden within a debris field left from an ancient asteroid war. Every ship was silent, engines cold, weapons charged, waiting. Reeve's voice came through the comms, low and steady. "We strike fast, we strike hard, and we disappear before they can breathe. No glory, no speeches, only results." The Council's fleet appeared moments later, massive dreadnoughts the size of cities, shimmering with blue shields and alien energy. They moved in formation, elegant and confident, unaware that death waited among the rocks. Reeve raised his hand. "Fire!" From the shadows, the Terran fleet erupted into motion. A storm of kinetic rounds and plasma torpedoes filled the void. The first volley crippled an entire council wing, explosions rippling like falling stars. "Target their command ship!" Lena shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. The Valkyrie darted through the burning wreckage, her guns glowing white-hot. She locked onto the massive cruiser. Sovereign Dawn, flagship of the enemy fleet. Her ship shook violently as enemy fire rained down, shields flickered, alarms blared, but she didn't stop. "Keep firing!" she yelled. "We take them down, or we die trying!" Reeve's Erebus moved in from the flank, unleashing a barrage of railgun fire that split the Sovereign Dawn open like a shattered moon. The alien flagship detonated in a blinding pulse of light, sending shockwaves through space. For a moment, the battlefield was silent. Even the Council ships seemed frozen. Then chaos returned, enemy vessels scattered, their coordination lost, but victory came at a price. The Valkyrie had taken heavy damage, fires spread across her decks. Lena stumbled through the smoke, coughing. As sparks rained from the ceiling, "Status!" she shouted. "Main reactor offline! Life support failing!" Her engineer called out. Lena gritted her teeth. "Evacuate lower decks! Get the wounded to the pods!" As her crew rushed to obey, she looked back at the viewport, watching the Council fleet retreat into the distance. They were running, and that meant only one thing. Fear. Admiral Reeves' voice came over the comms. Calm, but heavy. "We've bought time, but they'll return, bigger and stronger." Lena's voice was quiet, but determined. "Then so will we." Hours later, as the surviving Terran ships regrouped near the ruins of a dead moon, Reeve convened. His officers, holograms flickered as commanders from across the fleet appeared, men and women with hollow eyes but burning spirits. "They will send their full armada next time," Moreno said. "Every world they control will march against us." Reeve nodded. "Then we'll remind them of something they've forgotten." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the room. "Humans, don't surrender." Silence filled the chamber. Then one by one, voices rose across the comms. Soldiers, captains, engineers, all repeating the same words. "Humans don't surrender." The chant spread across the fleet, echoing in every ship, every corridor. It wasn't just a phrase. It was a promise, far away on the Council's capital. World, High Chancellor Veyron stared out the window of his crystal citadel, watching the debris of the sovereign dawn drift across the stars. "They are not supposed to be this strong," he whispered. They were supposed to be broken, but deep inside, even he felt it. The shift, the dread, the truth that could no longer be denied. Humanity had become the storm, and the storm was coming for them all. The galaxy had changed forever. The once proud Galactic Council had become a trembling shadow of its former power. Every world they ruled now whispered the same name in fear and awe: humanity. From the shattered fleets of Theta Gate to the smoldering ruins of Viridian 9, the Terran fleet had become legend. They struck fast, vanished into the dark, and left nothing but silence behind. But Admiral Ethan Reeve knew that silence could not last forever. The Council still held the core, the world of Eldara Prime, a fortress surrounded by fleets the size of continents. It was the heart of their empire and the source of their arrogance. Reeve stood aboard the dreadnought Erebus, watching the faint holographic glow of Eldara's defense grid. "That's it," he said quietly. "The source of every order that burned our allies, every voice that called us vermin." Commander Moreno turned to him, disbelief in her eyes. "Sir, we can't attack that. The core is surrounded by 12 defense rings and a planetary shield strong enough to block a star's flare." Reeve's voice remained calm. "I know. That's why we're not going to attack it." He paused, a thin smile forming. "We're going to make them destroy it themselves." Across the fleet, coded transmissions spread. A plan so daring that even the most seasoned captains hesitated before confirming their part. It was called Operation Nemesis. Captain Lena Voss, her ship, Valkyrie still scarred from the last battle, received the orders in silence. Her crew stared at the tactical display, a web of impossible maneuvers and timing. "This plan is madness," Lieutenant Harris muttered. Lena's eyes burned with determination. "Maybe," she said, "but it's the kind of madness humanity is best at." The operation began at dawn cycle on the third rotation. Human stealth cruisers slipped through the outer sectors, launching decoy transmissions across a dozen systems. The Council's fleet scrambled, chasing ghosts and phantom signatures. By the time they realized the deception, it was too late. The Terran fleet appeared from hyperspace. Not at the edge of the system, but directly above Eldara Prime itself. Space around the planet rippled as human warships decloaked, black silhouettes against the bright blue atmosphere. Council command panicked. Multiple hostile signatures, human vessels, inside the core perimeter. The defensive rings activated instantly, thousands of cannons turning toward the intruders, but the humans didn't fire. They held position, silent, still, waiting. On the Erebus, Reeve stood motionless. "Broadcast on all frequencies," he ordered. The message went out across the galaxy, carried on every comm channel, every frequency. "This is Admiral Ethan Reeve of the Terran fleet," his voice echoed, steady and cold. "You erased our allies, you burned our worlds, and you called it order. You declared us lesser, and yet, here we stand, above your throne." The council chambers fell silent as his voice filled their halls. Billions watched across the stars. "We will not destroy you today," Reeve continued. "We will show you what your fear has created." Then, with a single command, the Erebus fired a pulse toward Eldara's defense grid. Not to destroy it, but to hack it. Terran AIs, hidden within the pulse, infiltrated the planetary defense network, flipping control protocols in seconds. The defense rings turned one by one, their guns no longer aimed at the humans, but at the planet below. Impossible. Veyron roared, "Override the systems, now!" But it was too late. The sky above Eldara burned as its own defenses unleashed hellfire upon the surface. Cities evaporated in blue light, towers crumbled, oceans boiled. The council had destroyed itself, their arrogance used against them. Lena watched from the bridge of the Valkyrie, her hands trembling as the once glorious capital world vanished in clouds of fire. "Sir," she whispered over comms, "it's done." Reeve's expression was unreadable. "They called it justice when they burned our allies," he said quietly. "Now they've felt what justice truly means." But before the fleet could retreat, alarms blared across every Terran ship. "Admiral," Commander Moreno shouted. "Massive energy spike detected from the planet's core. Unknown signature." Reeve turned sharply. "What is it?" "Sir, it's not a weapon," she said, her voice trembling. "It's a distress beacon. Old alien. Origin." The holographic display shifted, revealing something beneath Eldara's crust. A massive structure awakening, buried deep for thousands of years. Lena's voice came through the comms, tense and uncertain. "Admiral, are you seeing this? That's not Council tech." The planet's crust split open, and from the fire rose something enormous, metallic, ancient, a ship the size of a continent, shaped like a blade of light. Reeve stared in disbelief. "What have they been hiding?" The beacon transmitted a single word across every human and alien frequency. A word that no one could translate, but everyone felt in their bones. "Return." And then the signal spread, beyond the system, beyond the galaxy, into the dark void between. "Stars." Lena's heart pounded. "Sir, that signal, it's calling something." Reeve's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then we may have just woken something far worse than the Council." The fleet pulled back, engines burning, leaving behind the dying world of Eldara and the rising shadow of whatever lay beneath it. Across the galaxy, transmissions flickered and died, strange signals echoing through the void. The war with the Council was ending, but something far older had just begun to stir. And in the darkness, humanity stood alone, victorious, but no longer certain if they were still the hunters, or if something else had just marked them as prey. The world of Eldara burned beneath a dying sun. The once mighty capital of the Galactic Council was nothing but molten ruins and silent oceans. Of ash, humanity had struck with unmatched precision, yet victory tasted like cold iron. Admiral Ethan Reeve stood on the bridge of the Erebus, his eyes fixed on the holographic feed of the planet below. The Council's cities were gone, their fleets shattered, but the signal, the ancient pulse from the planet's core, still echoed. Across every sensor, Commander Moreno approached, her voice tense. "Sir, the signal is spreading through subspace. It's rewriting comm bands, jumping faster than light. It's like it's alive." Reeve said nothing for a long moment, then turned to her. "Track." "Already trying, but it's not coming from Eldara anymore," she said quietly. "It's moving outward, like a ripple." Across the fleet, strange anomalies appeared. Energy surges, sensor ghosts. echoes of unknown ships that flickered and vanished. Captain Lena Voss, aboard the Valkyrie, watched her monitors flash with impossible readings. "It's everywhere," she whispered. "Every system's getting the same transmission." Then the lights dimmed. The ship's AI stuttered, screens turned black, and a single voice filled the bridge. Not human, not machine, something older, layered, resonant. "We remember the fire," it said. "We remember the makers." The crew froze. Lena's hand trembled above the console. "Admiral, do you hear that?" Reeves' voice came over the comm, steady but strained. "Yes, and I don't think it's talking to us." Moments later, every Terran ship reported the same phenomenon. The ancient voice spoke again. "The makers are gone, the heirs remain, judgment begins." The fleet systems flickered back online, but the signal had left its mark. A series of coordinates appeared across the tactical maps, 6 points scattered across the galaxy, glowing like embers in the dark. Reeves studied them in silence. "Those are activation sites," he said finally. "Whoever built that thing under Eldara." "It's awakening more of them." Moreno's eyes widened. "If each site holds another weapon like that—" Reeve cut her off. "Then this isn't just about vengeance anymore. This is survival. On the Council's ruined world, beneath layers of molten stone, the massive structure continued to rise. A blade-shaped ship of impossible size, pulsing with golden light. Its surface shifted like living metal, runes glowing as it powered up. Lena watched the live feed from a drone orbiting. "The planet, sir, it's leaving the surface. It's breaking orbit." The Erebus shuddered as gravitational waves rippled through space. The colossal vessel ascended slowly, elegantly, its presence bending light around it. "It's scanning us," Moreno whispered. "Let it," Reeves said quietly. "Maybe it'll see what it created." Then, without warning, the alien ship fired a beam of light, not at the humans, but into deep space, a column stretching beyond sight. Moments later, a reply came, distant but unmistakable. Something answered. Lena's stomach twisted. "It's not alone." Across the Terran fleet, fear turned to grim determination. Reeve opened the fleet-wide channel, his voice calm, resolute. "Listen to me," he said. "Whatever we woke, it's older than the Council, older than us. It might be the reason the Council feared humanity in the first place." He paused, looking around at his officers. "But we are still here. We've fought gods before. We'll fight them again." The order was given. The fleet turned toward the nearest activation site, engines burning bright. Humanity was not running. They were chasing the storm. Hours later, the Valkyrie led a recon group toward the first coordinate, a dead world orbiting a binary star. Its surface was covered in ruins made of the same living metal as the ship on Eldara. Lena's team landed near a vast monolith half buried in the dust, strange symbols etched across it. As they approached, the ground trembled. The monolith began to move, unfolding like a mechanical flower, revealing a chamber beneath. Inside, a faint light pulsed, a crystalline core humming with life. "Captain," Harris whispered, "that's a power source, or maybe a brain." Before they could analyze further, the crystal flickered, projecting a figure into the air. A humanoid shape made of light and shifting code. Its voice calm yet immense. "Children of Earth," it said, "you have awakened the fire. Keepers, the guardians of balance, long dormant, long forgotten." Lena stepped forward cautiously. "Guardians? You mean weapons?" The figure tilted its head. "Your kind calls everything a weapon, yet you are the most dangerous creation. Of all," Lena's pulse quickened. "Who made you?" The figure's glow dimmed. "The same ones who made you," it said softly. "The architects." At that moment, alarms blared on every Terran ship. The other activation sites were awakening simultaneously. Massive energy readings flared across. "The galaxy," Reeves' voice thundered through the comms. "Pull back! Now! This isn't just technology. It's a chain reaction." Lena ran for the exit as the ground shook violently. The monolith collapsed, releasing a burst of energy that flung her shuttle into the air. From orbit, the Terran fleet watched as the entire planet cracked open, golden light pouring from its core, forming a vast symbol visible even from space. The alien figure's last words echoed through every human transmission. Fire brings balance, and balance demands judgment. The light expanded, swallowing the planet, then vanished, leaving only silence. Reeve stared at the empty void where the world had been. "We didn't end the war," he said quietly. "We just lit the fuse." And as the Terran fleet regrouped, sensors picked up movement. Dozens of massive signatures emerging from deep space, heading straight toward the human frontier. The ancient fire keepers had awakened, and they were coming. Space had never felt so quiet. Yet every sensor screamed with warning. Across the black horizon, shapes moved, vast, luminous, and alive. The fire keepers had awakened, and the galaxy trembled in their shadow. Admiral Ethan Reeve stood on the bridge of the Erebus, his eyes fixed on the tactical map. Dozens of massive signatures closed in from all directions, each the size of a moon, each pulsing with the same golden energy that had destroyed the Council's core. Commander Moreno's voice shook. "They're not fleets, sir. They're living constructs, machines powered by something beyond physics," Reeve said quietly. "Then we're out of time." He turned to his officers. "Transmit to all Terran forces. Defensive line Sigma protocol, full planetary defense activation. Earth is the last line. No retreat, no hesitation." Across the solar system, alarms blared. The Martian shipyards opened. The moons of Jupiter lit up as long-range railguns came online. Thousands of ships rose from hidden ports. Humanity's final stand taking form. On the Valkyrie, Captain Lena Voss watched the feed of approaching entities, each moving with eerie precision. "How do we fight something that isn't alive?" Her first officer whispered. Lena answered without turning. "We remind them why life fights at all." When the firekeepers entered the system, the void itself seemed to bend around them. They did not speak. They did not fire. They simply hovered beyond the orbit of Pluto, as if waiting. Then, through every comm channel, through every human mind, a voice spoke, calm, infinite, ancient. "You carry the fire of the makers. You bring imbalance. You must be judged." Reeve stood motionless. "They think we're a mistake," he murmured. Moreno looked at him, fear in her eyes. "Maybe we are." Reeve shook his head slowly. "No. We're their evolution." He activated the main channel, broadcasting toward the entities, his voice echoing through every ship in the fleet. "This is Admiral Ethan Reeve of Earth. You want to judge us? Then understand this. We are not your experiment, not your creation. We are the consequence of your silence." For a long moment, there was no answer. Then the nearest firekeeper flared with light, beams of pure energy cutting through space. "Entire defense platforms vaporized in seconds. Engage!" Reeve roared. The solar system ignited. Thousands of human ships surged forward. Railguns fired, missiles streaked, plasma burned. The void became a storm of fire. The Valkyrie darted. Through the chaos, Lena's hands steady on the controls. "Target the core nodes, hit the glowing lines on their surface," she ordered. Her gunners obeyed. Every shot that struck those golden veins sent ripples through the colossal beings. But they didn't fall. They adapted, learning from every hit. On the Erebus, Reeve watched in grim silence. "They're not attacking, blindly. They're studying us," Moreno replied. "If they learn too much, they'll know how to stop us completely." Reeve took a deep breath. "Then we use the one thing they can't predict." He tapped a command key, unlocking a sealed protocol buried deep within the fleet's AI, Project Helios, a weapon that could turn a star into a spear. Moreno's eyes widened. "Sir, if we trigger that, we lose the system. Earth won't survive." Reeve's expression hardened. "Then Earth becomes the weapon." He opened a private channel to all commanding officers. This is our moment. Humanity has been the victim, the rebel, the survivor. Today we become the spark that ends the cycle. Lena's voice came through the calm, raw and fierce. Admiral, if this is the end, let them remember how it happened. The command was given. Helios activated. The sun flared brighter than ever before, its surface boiling as gravitational waves rippled outward. The firekeepers turned toward it, sensing the change too late. Reeve stood tall. For Earth, for Lyra, for every name they tried to erase. The Erebus's AI began the final sequence, Helios ignition in 10 seconds. Across the fleet, human voices echoed the same final words. We are the fire. The sun exploded, a controlled collapse and detonation focused through quantum fields. The shockwaves spread like a burning halo, ripping through everything in its path. The firekeepers tried to flee, but light outran them, consuming their forms, tearing their energy apart. The Terran fleet vanished in the blaze, ships turning into streaks of molten light. Earth's oceans rose in waves of flame. The skies burned, but the signal of the firekeepers was gone. When the light faded, silence returned. Only fragments of the fleet drifted through the newborn nebula that had once been the solar system. Among the wreckage, a single message beacon blinked, the last transmission from Admiral Reeve, his voice faint but clear.